Two grumpy critics.
I'm back to reality with a bump, if you can call it reality. A podcast that I studiously avoided simply because there's enough politics in my life. But the team behind BBC Politics, which can be stultifyingly boring, to be honest, because it has to be non-biased and non-partisan and so on and so forth. I know that there are people over there that wouldn't necessarily believe me when I say that, but it does actually happen. I came up with something called Brexitcast, Brexit being, of course, our means of walking away from Europe and all that brings to the party. So it's all the lead people. Laura Kuensberg, who's a political editor, Chris Mason, who's a real rising star. They don't quite know where to put him in news, but he's really, really, really good in this. And the Europe editor, Katja Adler, and all of these people kind of get together, and it's quite, what's the best word for it? It's very informal for BBC News because they are chatting and it's full of in-jokes and full of comments, and it's become an absolute phenomenon really in the last month or so. It won a couple of awards in the podcast awards, and that's what really got me into listening to it. Mm-hmm. But it's a hoot because it's twice we've used that phrase in this whole programme. It's got nothing to do with either doing a 90-second stand-up on the 6 o'clock news for TV or doing a 2-minute pack for a radio bulletin. It's as long as it needs to be. It might be 25 minutes, it might be 45 minutes, and they chat and they get guests in, and it over the piece has to still maintain that BBC air of impartiality, and it's not for or against Brexit. But on the other hand, it's just clever and it's funny and it's full of jokes and it pokes fun at people. You wouldn't want to be Boris Johnson listening to it. And it's also because it's not of the mainstream, because if you're going to listen to it, it's because you're clearly interested in listening to it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to explain the basic stuff.
Right.
So away it goes into fairly geeky land that, to be honest, I think probably more people could do with knowing about, because Brexit is a bit like the left-right conversation in America, that you decide which side of the Brexit argument you're on, and most people just position themselves in their own echo chamber and don't want to hear anything else. Mm-hmm. And it's clever, it's funny, it's irreverent, and you don't need to be in Britain to listen to it because it's a podcast, which is a very good thing. It gets 5 out of 7 Nigel Farage's moustaches.
Wow.
A Radio 6 international production from the USA. Copyright 2018.